Assalamu alaikum, dear friends. Let me welcome you to Alokana Islam by Choice channel with another episode in the series of Qur'an and Our Life. Today we are going to talk about a specific verse, but it also embodies something that we can entitle as justice, fairness, and lack of prejudice. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلعوا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. An approximate translation would be, O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to God, even as against yourselves, or your parents, or your kin, and whether it be against rich or poor, for Allah can best protect both. Follow not the lusts of your hearts, lest you swerve, and if you distort justice or decline to do justice, verily, Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. This is from Surah number 4, An-Nisa, verse number 135. All religions affirm justice and fairness as an essential precept. However, Islam has taken this precept to a new height. Justice has always meant that we should be unprejudiced and we should like for others what we like for ourselves. In matters of principles, Muslims are to stand for what is just or fair, regardless of in whose favor the verdict is. This is truly revolutionary. Besides the judicial system that is supposed to serve as an apparatus of justice, Islam wants us to put ourselves on trial from within. In molding our personality as well as in building a society based on our life based on universal justice, this verse of enormous scope can take us a very long way. We should scrutinize our life, behavior, and aspirations in light of these unambiguous criteria of justice. This verse teaches us that beyond the courts of this world, there is a higher world where we might be tried unless we put ourselves on trial as warranted. Normally, the golden rule says that if we do not like to be harmed, we should not harm anyone else. And this is true irrespective of race, color, nationality, gender, language, or any other artificial basis of distinguishing different segments of the humanity. If we do not like to be offended, we should not offend others, Muslims or non-Muslims. If we like to be treated kindly, we should treat others kindly. Or if we expect fairness from others, we should be fair in our own conduct and judgment. But this verse says that even when we can't expect fairness from others, we need to stand for justice. This is a lofty role, as God has equated it to witnessing to God in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, verse number 143. The life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the period of rightly guided caliphs or Khulafa Rashidun broadly exemplified this principle and vision of justice and fairness. During the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the period of Khulafa Rashidun, we find the principle of justice and fairness systematically reflected. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never ate, knowing someone might be hungry and without food. Under his direct training, an illustrious generation emerged, the generation of the companions that included the Khulafa Rashidun. Leaders like Umar ibn Abdul Khattab, radiallahu ta'ala anh, reportedly said that under his leadership and responsibility, even if a dog dies of hunger under his rule, he was afraid that God might take him into account regarding his responsibility. Abuse of power and subversion of justice are too common. But what Islam teaches is illustrated rather inspiringly in an event, for example, from the fourth Caliph Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anh, as reported in Ibn Kathir's famous history book Al-Bidayah wa An-Nihaya. The summary of the story is that while Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was the Khalifa or the ruler, his armor was lost. Subsequently, he found it with a man from Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book. Even though he was the ruler or the Khalifa, fair system of justice as per Islamic guidance requires respecting the separation of power. Thus, he took up the matter with the Qadi or Judge Shuraih and lodged a complaint that the particular armor was his and he has not sold or given it away. The judge asked the accused as to what he has to say about the complaint of the commander of the faithful or Amirul Mu'mineen. The person said, "It is my armor. However, I do not consider the commander of faithful to be a liar." The judge then asked Ali if he has any proof. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu acknowledged that he did not have any proof. Consequently, the judge ruled in favor of the accused. Even though the accused was exonerated, the person himself was so impressed with the whole thing that he returned to Ali and acknowledged that it was the armor of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. It was lost, but he found it when it fell from his luggage during a military expedition, and he just took it. Ali replied, "If you embrace Islam, the armor is yours." This is how Muslims not only won the heart of other people, but also pursued and stood for justice and fairness. Just imagine how the separation of power as practiced according to Islam prevents the kind of abuse of power we have become accustomed to throughout history and only much, much worse in our own time. What we have inherited in the form of justice is not what is the norm and legacy of the Prophet and the Khulafa Rashidun, but of the Amirs, Sultans, Kings, Monarchs, Emperors, Shahs, and other autocrats. In our own time, even the systems in Muslim majority countries that are supposed to be based on constitutional participatory governance, there is just too much abuse of power away from justice and fairness through institutional manipulations. The implications of Islam's call for standing for justice is much, much broader. Beyond the institutional dimensions, what is imperative is to embrace and uphold this clarion call of Islam in the form of value and culture to stand for justice at all levels of our life. Let's consider some of the burning issues of our time. If all the parties embrace this principle of inherent justice and fairness, not only conflicts as in Kashmir, Palestine, Yemen, or Syria can be solved, but also similar problems can be even preempted. Consider the case of business and profit, and the way in many places laborers are immorally exploited. This principle can address or preempt the problem. Consider the cases in courts everywhere. If people embrace the principle of justice and fairness, the burden on the court would be diminished or even marginalized. If this sublime principle and value of Islam is internalized in our life and in every aspect of our decision making, whether at the interpersonal, family, society, state, or international level, we self-scrutinize ourselves in regard to being just and fair, a fundamental transformation at every level can take place. Can we subject ourselves to that self-scrutiny? Can we ask ourselves whether we are being just and fair in making our decision, in holding our opinion, in expressing our views, and in fulfilling our responsibilities? That's the challenge the Qur'an places before us, before the humanity, but as Muslims, we are duty-bound to uphold it. I hope that you would ponder about what is presented in light of this particular verse in the Qur'an. Again, this is one of the key Quranic verses in my view that can transform our life at all levels. Ponder over it, reflect on your own life, and see how we can adjust or modify our life in accordance with the teaching of this particular verse. Stay well, stay safe. Fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.